Hi, and welcome to this session on author platform branding and monetization. This is part of Bookselling University, and I'd like to introduce myself to you. I am your presenter today. Let's see, I'm Joel Friedlander. I have a background in direct response marketing. I'm a book designer. I've worked in the book publishing industry. I'm currently a blogger, and I run several e-commerce sites, and I'm going to talk about that more because how I made the jump from being a book designer to a blogger to an e-commerce business operator is at the center of this presentation. I'm also a writer. I've written over 1 million words on my blog, and I'm a columnist for Publishers Weekly. I love email marketing, something you need to know about me, and I'm also an avid cook and baker. And I'm not going to dwell on that, but I would like to say that lately I've become something of an expert in low-carb baking, and I predict that's going to become a big thing. Now, let me go back a second and talk about what we're going to speak about today. This, in fact, is actually a fairly simple topic, but it sounds complicated because of the unwieldy title of the presentation, Author Platform, Branding, and Monetization. But realistically, I'm going to talk a little bit about what an author platform is and why, if you're an author, you really want to know about that. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how we actually extend our platform into the world, and that has a lot to do with our branding. And then we're going to look at how this plays together, both the platform you build, the brand you establish, in actually making money from what you're doing. You can see my little quote at the bottom of the screen here: learn how to use your expertise to build a valuable online asset. Turn your content into an amazing variety of multimedia products using the latest technology to reach readers who are just waiting to hear your message. That sounds good, right? Now, I am a nonfiction author. I write about book publishing, mostly, book design and publishing. And a good deal of this is going to appeal to all of the Bookselling University members who are nonfiction authors. These are some of my brands. The Book Designer, that's my blog. And I also operate these other e-commerce sites where we sell products and services that are useful to indie authors. And you'll hear a little bit more about that later. So let's start with platform. And, you know, I've been writing about this topic for years. I actually started building my author platform in the 1980s. That sounds like a long time ago, probably before some of you watching this presentation were born. We didn't call it author platform back then, but it's really, really important. And what do I mean by author platform? In general, I'm talking about all the people in the world who know you as a valuable resource or an expert on a particular topic. Now, when I say expert, you might think in your mind, oh, like a PhD or somebody who's traveled around the world interviewing people. No, you know, there are many, many kinds of expertise. For instance, if you can figure out, you know, we used to joke about this back when we used floppy disks. If you could figure out how to put a floppy disk in and out of your computer, you could become an expert on something that other people wanted to know. And really, that's what defines expertise. If you know how to do something or navigate some process that other people don't and they want to know about, you have expertise. You could have expertise in putting air in your tires. Look, there's a lot of nuances in putting the air in your tires. That is a little tiny bit of expertise. Some people have a broader expertise or a more focused expertise. But the point I'm trying to make here is that you have to value your own expertise, and your expertise is going to be at the foundation of the platform you're going to build. Now, how it is that you communicate with people and the personal qualities that you express in your communication, in your printed products, digital products, in your speaking, all of those qualities become embodied in your own personal brand. So you've got platform, which is the people who know you as a valuable resource. And look, it doesn't have to be, me teaching you how to fill your tires. You could be a valuable resource in entertaining people, right? We all know people we love as entertainers. They have an expertise they can use there. And that's just as valuable depending on whether you need to put air in your tires or you need to relax and have a good time for an hour. So the platform you build and the brand that you establish as you do that, they are both going to have a huge effect on whether you can actually make money from doing this. And I know that's a question that a lot of authors have. Look, we're writers. And that means generally that we're writing whether people are paying us or not, because we just love to write. But a lot of people have the question, where is it possible to actually start generating income? Because let's face it, if you can make money doing it, then you'll keep doing it. And if you can't make money doing it, then a lot of people are going to quit. And I don't think that's a really good solution. So in my world, I find that actions build your platform. You have to actually take an action. You have to move yourself from wherever you are out into the world of people interested in what you have to talk about. If you if you're an expert on kayaking, then you have to find the people who are looking to learn about kayaking or improve their kayaking skills. So if you're an expert kayaker, you don't want to find yourself talking to a bunch of pastry chefs who only want to learn about how to make dough better. So context is really important, but actions build your platform. And in our world, if you publish a book, like just published a book on how to put together print books, I used my expertise, published that book. That book is going to help me build my platform because it'll be out there advertising in a sense that I'm somebody who knows about that topic and I could potentially help you. Doing speaking, for instance, like this webinar that I'm doing for Bookselling University. This helps to build your platform. I have no idea how many people are going to see this, but anybody who watches this presentation is going to come away hopefully with some really cool ideas about building their platform and their brand. But they're also going to kind of come away with the idea that, hey, that Joel guy, he really helped me understand the subject. Writing, whether it's writing for my own site or for Publishers Weekly, or I've written for Writer's Digest, or all of those things help build platform. Helping people, that's a big part of my own platform building, and not a lot of people consider that as an action that will build your platform. But on my website, at events I go to, people are constantly asking me questions. And I respect that because that's how you get help and you move ahead. You rely on the expertise of people who know more than you. That's what I did. So actually, I take a lot of time out of my day and in general in my work life to help other people because that it's something I love to do, but that will also help build your platform. Now, networking is really a super important part of platform building. And the reason for that is, like, maybe you're just starting out. Maybe you've got an email list of 80 people and you know most of them. But it's also possible you could make friends with other people in your field, other kayaking experts or bakery chefs or whatever it is that your expertise is, and network with them. And they might have hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of people that they've already built into their platform. Now, you can see right away that if you can network with people who already are talking to your audience, that is really going to help build your platform. So if I go on somebody's blog who has a lot of more readers than I do, and maybe do an interview or write an article for them about something that I'm an expert in, and some of those people, some percentage of them are going to kind of come over and see what else I have, and that will help build my platform. So in other words, you could think of all of these things as ways to amplify your own voice. And for instance, that's very true if you publish an article in a high circulation newspaper, or you publish on the Huffington Post, or a place where people will actually see your writing. You will amplify your voice. So author platform, as I said, the basic idea is people who know and respect you as an expert on something, or as a reliable source for something. Now, in fact, when you get down to it and you actually try to do something once you've built some kind of platform, and it doesn't have to be huge, what you're going to find is you have an ability to move people to act, but probably only a small percentage of people. So if you have maybe send an email out to 1,000 people and say, hey, my new book came out, some people will act on it. So really your platform, the basis of it is the people who will act when you ask them to. The people who won't do anything, yeah, they might know you as a resource, but if they're not going to do anything, it's not perhaps going to help you very much. Branding, on the other hand, is how you're known by that audience. Now, I just gave you an example of one of my brand characteristics. Because I do so much teaching and put out so much free content, and I answer so many thousands, believe me, thousands and thousands of questions over the years, part of my brand is that guy, Joel, he's a helpful guy. Now, think to yourself, if you know somebody who has the quality of being helpful and not talking down to people and really respecting questions from absolute beginners, that person is a lot easier to approach and maybe more likable, right? When I started blogging, I wanted to build the audience for my blog because I understood that was going to become my author platform once I started publishing books for that audience. So I always tried to establish 3 qualities to my author platform. And that is that I was helpful, that I was trustworthy. And what I mean by that is that if I say I'm going to do something, then I am definitely going to do it. So if you actually do the things you say you're going to do, people will gradually begin to trust you. So if I say I'm going to publish an article every Monday and Wednesday, then you better believe I am going to stick to that goal like glue, because that's a really important part of my brand. Not only am I helpful, I'm also trustworthy. And the third leg on my stool of my own brand is that I am likable. Now, it's not easy for everybody to turn themselves into somebody likable. And certainly your online or author brand does not encompass every single part of your personality. There are days I don't feel particularly helpful, or maybe I would like to say something nasty to the last person who called me. But as whenever I'm operating in the context of my professional life, I try to remember that I am a person who likes to help people, and I'm going to be reliable and trustworthy. And as much as possible, I'm going to be a likable person, because that's who people like to deal with when it comes time to buy a book or a service or a product. You're much more likely to want to buy something from somebody who you can trust and who's likable and helpful. That makes sense, right? So I've embodied into my brand those particular characteristics. What goes into your branding is possibly going to be different because you're not me. So what kind of assets can you bring to this task of actually monetizing what you're doing? Or what kind of assets can you build up as you go along? So I've got a big list of assets here, and this is not, you must do all of these things. You could look at this more like a menu. Like if you went to a restaurant for lunch, you wouldn't go there and say, I'll take one of everything. No, that's crazy. They're just showing you what's on offer. You would just pick the ones that seemed delicious today. So, for instance, social media is a really easy part of the platform to build for most indie authors, and that's where most people start. And it's really valuable, social media, if you like engaging in it, because there are many ways to get feedback from your audience. You can make connections, you can have great conversations. You can't really do a lot of commerce. I find in social media, selling, it really isn't good for that. But if you build a robust social media platform, that's going to be a big help to you as you add more planks to the platform. Having a blog or website is great. I mean, a blog is really kind of a media site, so you can release your own media. You can release a press release. You can talk about your upcoming books. You can demonstrate your expertise. There's just so many ways a blog or a website helps you. And every author, and particularly nonfiction authors, I would encourage them to write as much as they can and publish regularly on a website, whether it's a blog or not, because that's going to be very helpful for you in the long term. An email list, I've already exposed to you my love of email, but email is great. Email is really where we make transactions or we interest people in offers, which you can't really do as effectively in social media or with a blog post. But if I send you an email, we're now having kind of a one-on-one communication in your inbox, because when you click and open that email, I'm just talking to you, you're reading what I'm saying, I'm inviting you to respond. It's a much more actually kind of almost intimate experience you can have with people. If you're sitting in an audience of 200 people listening to a lecture, that's not really that personal. If you're reading a book, the author isn't there. You see a social media post, but email has that really great intimacy, and that's where we actually get people to take an action. So an email list is a really, really powerful platform asset, and I would encourage every single nonfiction author and fiction author to find a way today to start to build your email list. There are many, many ways to do it, and you will find as you go forward that people who will sign up for your email list will actually thank you for sending them information on your topic that will be helpful to them. And I include in that offers for products or services that might not be available anywhere else. I mean, that's really kind of a cool thing. Now, if you belong to an association, for instance, I'm a past president of the Bay Area Independent Publishers Association. That's a very cool asset to have as part of your platform. I know a lot of people in that group, and they know me as an expert on this field. That's kind of the definition of platform. How about if you've been publishing a newsletter? And I know a lot of people actually in business have been publishing newsletters for years. We used to publish printed newsletters and mail them out. That's actually really expensive and time consuming. So now we can do email newsletters. It's much less expensive and a really good way to stay in touch with either prospects or customers or potential prospects or customers. How about if you've published other books? Now, if you published a novel about science fiction 10 years ago and you're now building a platform as an expert in kayaking, that's probably not going to do you much good. There will be a few people there that maybe got interested in kayaking, so they'll recognize your name. But predominantly, this is going to be work you've done in the same category, genre, or niche. So I wrote a book many years ago on psychology. It doesn't really do me any good in building my platform in the indie publishing industry. But all the books I publish now really do, because thousands of people buy them and read them. And some of them don't know I even have a blog, but they become part of my platform anyway. And obviously, as I've said over and over again, your own expertise is the backbone of your authority. But don't think that you have to spend 10 years acquiring expertise in order to do this. You really don't. Because if you think about it, there is always a group of people who know less than you do. I'll give you an example of this. Many people watching this presentation probably know Joanna Penn, who's a prolific blogger, a terrific author, both fiction and nonfiction. And you may not know that when she started her blog, The Creative Pen, originally, she didn't know much about book publishing, but her deal with her readers was that she would learn about it and then pass along what she learned. So you could see that she was acquiring expertise like 1 month at a time as she learned new stuff. So she didn't have to take a 10-year course in publishing. She became an expert in each little bit of the publishing process and shared it with her readership. And because she's a very engaging writer, she built a huge platform that way. Okay, how about your colleagues and partners, peers? This goes along with the network effects I was talking about, learning how to network with other people in your field. This can have really, really important ramifications for you as you move into the monetization part of your activity. Just think of the people who will lend you their microphone, who have already built the audience that you are just dying to talk to. I mean, those are the real people that you want to get to know and do things for them, offer them things, write guest posts, go and do an interview and give away a lot of books to their readers. Yeah, people like that kind of stuff. I can't avoid it. Your personality is really a big part of your platform. I mean, you could try and fake who you are, but that isn't really going to last very long. So your authentic personality is kind of going to determine how you communicate. And I'll give you an example. Like me, a lot of people are terrified of appearing on video. I run into this all the time with authors. It just freaks them out. Now, I understand that, and there's no reason they have to do that. Those authors are often very used to talking about their work, so they could make audios or podcasts. And that could be a really cool way for them to build their audience and communicate with the people in their platform. So depending on the kind of personality you have, now me, on the other hand, I'm a little bit of a ham. I love speaking in front of a crowd, and I love making videos. And so that influences the kind of material or the channels over which I communicate with my audience. And lastly, obviously, some of these things do cost money. And, I've been in business a long time, and it's really a truism in business that you do sometimes have to spend money to make money. So depending on what your goals are or how well you're capitalized, that's going to have an effect on what you put out there. For instance, you might be a great writer, but maybe you're visually challenged, or maybe you don't like marketing. So if you want to get help, like producing materials or book covers or websites that look good and operate right, you may have to hire somebody to do that. And so, having a budget can be a big influence on the kind of things you do in platform building. Certainly when it comes to book sales, advertising has become a really big thing for authors. But and I mean by that advertising on Facebook, advertising on Amazon. But there again, you have to figure out either how to make the advertising pay for itself, or you're going to have to put some money in to get started. There's just no two ways about it. So that kind of rounds out you can see that if you think about all of these assets, if you build a platform, you're going to have a very, very powerful asset to go out and deploy in the world to help sell your books, sell your ideas, to make an impact on the world. Now, how do network effects work? Like I've been talking about that numerous times so far in this presentation. I'll give you an example. The last time I published a book, I've done a lot of work networking in my field, which is the indie author community. And you can see this is a straight screenshot off the Amazon page for that book. And this was the Self-Publisher's Ultimate Resource Guide. But I was able to reach out to all of these people: Mark Coker, who founded Smashwords, Joanna Penn, who I've mentioned, Joan Stewart, a really highly respected publicity expert, Jason Matthews, Michael Hyatt, a New York Times bestselling author. And because they're in my network and I try to help them whenever I can, they were happy to give me blurbs and testimonials for my book. Now, personally, I love that. I think that really helps to sell books. If you see a person you know and trust says, this is a really great reference, I highly recommend it, that makes that sale a little bit easier to make, doesn't it? So this kind of slide, although it looks prosaic, actually includes within it both platform building efforts, branding, because my brand is part of what I do, and monetization, because the effects of my marketing and networking have brought in these testimonials, and they're going to help me monetize my work. So you see, it's really all coming together in a way. Let's keep going. Now, as you know, I'm a very active blogger. We publish 3 to 4 times a week on my site at thebookdesigner.com. It's virtually all 100% useful content. And, my idea in doing that was to help indie authors who are trying to produce good quality books and be successful at publishing, no matter how you define success. So as you do that, and as you build a platform, you are actually doing something that I think of as aggregating a market. In other words, some people call it building a community, okay? Gathering your tribe. It doesn't matter what you call it. I like to call it aggregating a market. I don't know. I like big words. What can I say? And what I'm saying is that each of those people, every time they interact with you, if they come over to read your blog post, or they go to a webinar you're running, or they go to a bookstore for an event you're holding, whatever it is, they are kind of raising their hand and saying, yeah, I'm somebody interested in what this person is doing. So from sitting here at the other side, I see that all of these people that have become readers or purchasers or fans of mine, they are my market. That is the market that I am looking to build and where I'm going to do my monetization. And this is particularly true for authors, because authors really rely on network effects. And what I mean by that is, if you have a really good book and you can get it into the hands of enough people, those people will start telling other people they know. That's how bestsellers are born. It's from somebody reading a book and turning around saying, oh my God, Jane, you got to read this. This was an incredible read. You won't believe it. That's it. So our job as publishers, and when we become self-publishers, is to make sure that we get our work into the hands of as many people as we can. And, if they've said, hey, I'm interested in book design, and I publish a book on book design, then I'm satisfying the needs of my market, aren't I? So that's what it means. So you could think yourself, and you might want to take a minute to think about, what's your reach into the market? What's your platform made up of? Do you have a social media platform? Have you done any networking with other people in your field? And these are places you might want to do some extra work, and that would be a good thing. Let's keep moving. Here's a quote from Dan Blank, a writer, consultant, and an author himself. And he says, to me, branding is about communication, effectively understanding your own purpose, that of your audience, and the ways to connect the two. And I would say Dan's quote would apply to everything that I'm talking about in this presentation. So let's keep going. Branding. congruence in branding is really important, and I could substitute that word for consistency. In other words, you want to be consistent. You don't want to be advertising yourself as a great flower arranger, and when people hit your site, they're like pictures of brawny guys operating tractors, because that would not be congruent with a flower arranger. So being consistent is really important. Discoverability is very important, and what I mean by that is how well people can identify your books, products, or services, and that they all are related to you. Discoverability is also about understanding how search engines find people. And I'm not going to get into that. Search engine optimization, metadata, these are all topics that affect your discoverability. And also establishing your persona, how you present yourself to the world. And I've been talking about that. That's what embodies your brand. So these things are all important to branding. And if you think about it, branding is really amazingly persistent. And I'll give you an example. For instance, there was a very famous writer years ago, Lawrence Block, and he wrote really exciting police procedural thrillers. And this guy became incredibly popular. He just sold millions and millions of books. Most of them were based in New York. And over the years, you know, he was not a young guy. He got older, and his books started to become more and more like formula fiction. You know, he would just write to the formula. But the fact of the matter was, his brand was as this really exciting writer. So they just kept selling and selling and selling. And in fact, his brand became more persistent than the actual quality of the books. And I'm kind of betting that you might be able to think of an example of that too. Branding can be stronger than facts. We see this all the time. If your brand is that you are a super successful businessman, and the fact that you might have a couple of bankruptcies somewhere is going to be weaker than the fact that your brand is that you are a super successful person. And as I said before, incongruence or inconsistency is going to have a harmful impact on your brand. So these are just topics to think about when you're thinking about what the heck is he talking about? What is that brand that an author is known by? And you could think yourself, what's your brand? I mean, what would people say about you? What are your values that you actually express when you interact with people in your area? How would people know that those are your values? Do you just say them, or do you actually act them out? Like, I can tell you, hey, I'm a helpful guy and I love new publishers, but what really cements that part of my brand is that I actually answer thousands and thousands of questions. How would others describe you? Sometimes when I'm consulting with authors, I say, well, write down 3 adjectives that people would use to describe you as an author. And what you're going to find is that that is what has become a big part of your brand. And you can also look at your activities, whether you're on social media or doing speaking or writing, and see, are you consistent in the materials and the message that you're putting out to people? Now, it's true that fiction authors really make most of their income from book sales, but nonfiction authors have many, many, many more potential income sources, and all of them are based on what kind of author platform you have. For instance, a blog. You know, I think of a blog as an endless conversation, but you could also think of it as getting market intelligence directly from your market. And I keep talking about these questions, but the reason I talk about them is simple. And I'll tell you, when I first started out and I didn't have an active blog, I used to go to our local publishing group meetings religiously. And I would go at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, which my wife thought was crazy. Why do you want to get up and go to a publishing meeting at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning? But now I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because at the meetings, that first hour was reserved for newbies to come and ask questions on anything that they wanted to know. these stupid questions, smart questions, where they were getting stuck. I would go to these meetings for about 2 years. I did this, and I'd sit there and write down all of the questions that people were asking. That was incredibly valuable market intelligence. Now, I don't have to do that anymore because now people come to me and they ask questions on my blog every day. But that gives me a really cool way to know what people are thinking about and where they're getting stuck. And that tells me where I can be the most help. Now, when I say packaging and purpose, I'm going to show you this rather than explain it, because this is about the content you create, how you actually embody your expertise and put it in the world. For instance, I could, maybe I know a lot about ISBN, the International Standard Book Numbering, that kind of confuses a lot of new authors. I've written articles about ISBN, but you know, I've also done videos about ISBN and actual courses that include ISBN. So the expertise was packaged differently depending on the purpose to which I was going to put it. And we'll see examples of that. And I just want to give you this one little idea because we'll see how this plays out. This is an idea that was originated by an internet marketer named Eben Pagan. It's called moving the free line. And what this chart is attempting to show is that the more valuable the content that you give away, the more you can eventually charge for a product when you actually produce something that people have to pay for. And that's what the little intersection of the red curve on those lines means, that if you give away something that's kind of valuable, then you can charge a certain amount for your course, let's say. If you give away content that's much more valuable, you could charge more. And if you give away your best stuff, and I encourage people to do this, it sounds counterintuitive and crazy, but the secret sauce here is that if you give away your best stuff, and people can sense that when you come out with a product you're going to charge people for, you can actually command a very high price. Let's see what I mean. Oh, here's another quote for you from Michael Hyatt. If there's one thing all professional platform builders agree on, it's the importance of building your list. And by that, I mean email list. So how does it work? Here's an article I wrote many years ago, in fact, in 2010, called The Top 10 Myths, Lies, and Misinformation About Copyright. Now, I wrote an article on copyright, I thought that was something authors needed to know about. It's not a super important topic or something that really worries people in book publishing, but it's basic. And I found out that this was the single most popular article on my site. I couldn't believe it. So, like any marketer, what did I do? I sat down and started writing more articles on copyright because my audience was telling me that's what they wanted to know. Now, all of these articles are on my site. They're completely free to anybody who wants to read them, and they are my best topic stuff on copyright, and I've written many of them. So you can go to my blog right now and find them, but when you get there, you're also going to find this PDF book called The Self-Publisher's Quick and Easy Guide to Copyright. Everything you need to know about copyright to publish your book and protect your rights. And if you're guessing now that this is a compilation or an assemblage of all the articles I've written on copyright, you would be exactly right. I didn't write anything new for this. I just collected together my articles and put them in a form where people could actually buy them, and it would be much more convenient because I'm telling you now, if you go and try and search all the articles on copyright on my site, it's very frustrating. Here you can, for $10, download this PDF instantly and have everything in one place. Now, people like that. So this expresses the idea of packaging and purpose. I took the exact same content, but I had a different purpose in mind. I wanted to sell the content instead of giving it away, so I packaged it in a way that people would be willing to buy it. Now, does this sell a lot of copies? No, but here's my message. This PDF sells about 1 copy a day, every day. That's not a lot, is it? 10 bucks. But, you know, I've been doing this for years, and every year this little PDF contributes about $3,500 to my income every year. And I don't do anything. I did it I put this out probably in 2012, and I updated it once last year because there were some changes in the copyright law. So this is an example of going up the monetization scale. We started at free, now we're at $10. The next thing I did was to produce a book called The Self-Publisher's Companion, expert advice for authors who want to publish from thebookdesigner.com. And once again, if you guess that this is blog posts, you guessed right. I went through my archive and pulled out about 43 blog posts. I edited them. I took out a lot of the bold and the bullet lists and the stuff that we do to make it interesting to read on a blog. And I published it as a book. And, you know, it doesn't sell a huge amount, but it just keeps trucking along. Every year I get checks every month for sales of this book. So the book is $14.95. So now we've gone from free to $10 to a $14.95 trade book, but we're not finished. The next thing I did was I thought, well, I've got all of this expertise and people keep asking me questions. I'm going to package this up as a training course in self-publishing. I called it the Self-Publishing Roadmap. It's not on the market right now, but I put a lot of people through this training. And basically, I turned all of my articles on publishing into video lessons. You can see on the screen cap, I'm standing there in Module 3 talking about how to produce your books. I took the same expertise I had put into my blog. I turned them into video lessons. I took a lot of the articles from my blog, turned them into PDFs for people to download, and bingo, I had a course. Now, you know, I'm not saying there may be some unique content here. There's a lot of bonuses, but the basics of what I'm teaching in this course are all in the 1,700 articles on my blog, which are all for free. The course started out at $297, and when the last time I offered it, it was $897. And I have an option for people who want more one-on-one help that they can get into the Self-Publishing Roadmap and get me as their publishing mentor. And the price for that version was $2,400 and $2,497. Call it $2,500. So you can see what's happening here. We've gone from free content, valuable, educational, well presented, but absolutely free, to a $10 product. Then we went to a $15 product. Now we're here dealing with the exact same expertise, the same content, and we're selling it for $900. So monetization has a way of pushing you to package your material differently for different kinds of purposes. And this is from my friend Joanna Penn. And this is also about email lists. Imagine how powerful it is to have a list of 10,000 people and send them an email saying, my book is available, click here to buy it. That's how you create bestsellers. I love that quote. So I'm going to wrap this up by showing you how I then took these same assets and turned them into something else. This was actually the review count from Amazon on that book I told you about before, The Self-Publisher's Ultimate Resale Guide. I was able to get 151 reviews basically the first week we published the book because I have an email list. I went out there and said, hey, look, please review my book. And I made a deal with people who would review it. I gave away free copies. I made people sign a little statement saying, I'll put a review up on the retailer website. Now, if you want to know the truth, I will open the kimono a little bit here, and I'll tell you, I gave away about 530 copies of that book. I got 150 reviews, so there's about 300 people I'm still out there looking for. But I considered this a tremendous success. You know, it's really not that easy to get 150 reviews on your book, and I got 4 out of 5 stars, so that was good. But if we move along, you could see what else you can do with a platform and a really juicy brand. In 2013, I teamed up with a technologist, Tracy Atkins, and turned my book designs into templates you could use in Microsoft Word. So we opened a business called Book Design Templates, selling at the, and when we opened, we had 6 templates. We now have dozens and dozens of them. But I wanted to start a business. Now, usually starting a business is very fraught with risk. It's just a huge amount of risk. And if you look at the business statistics, you will find that 4 out of 5 businesses shut down within the first 2 years of opening. And that's sad, but true. So, but if you have a robust platform, that's not going to happen to you. And here I can show you, this is a screen capture from my analytics program that shows that we put almost 6,000 people on that site in the first week it was open. So you can imagine if I have 6,000 authors writing books, wanting to publish them, all of a sudden I'm giving them this option they've never seen before of beautifully designed book templates. I want to tell you, we were profitable from day one that we opened, and you can see that March, that was 2013. We just had thousands and thousands of authors there, and we sold a ton of templates, and bingo, we were off and running. So you think, you know, people talk about author platform, and usually all they're thinking is, how many likes do I have on Facebook, or how many people do I follow me on Twitter? That is not what it's all about. That's only a very, very small part of what building a platform and a brand involve. Because when you really get into monetization, there are so many things you can do. So here's my final quote. As content creators, we actually have an obligation to pass on the knowledge and skills we've gained to people who need it and want it. And we have an interest in seeing them adopted as widely as possible. And that's where all your monetization, or actually making money, is going to come in. Now, I want to show you, I'm going to both demonstrate and gift you here, because for people who are interested in finding out more about what I'm doing, or how to publish books, or self-publishing, I have 2 free offers for you. One is on my book design template site. It's called the Book Construction Blueprint, everything you need to know to put together an industry standard book. I don't want any of you people out there publishing books with the page numbers in the wrong place, or, you know, just making some silly formatting mistake, or putting the introduction after the content. So I put together the Book Construction Blueprint. It goes through all of those technical details of how books are put together. You can get it for free at thebookdesigner.com/blueprint, or any enterprising smartphone users can zap that QR code and go right there. And then I have my 10 things you need to know about self-publishing, plus don't make these 10 common self-publishing mistakes. This is an incredibly useful, short, beautifully designed PDF that is exactly what it says. It's got tons of resource links and basic information that you need to know. This book has been downloaded over 30,000 times, so I know it's out there helping a lot of people and building my platform. So here you can see in a nutshell how it's working. I have expertise. I'm sharing it with you right now, and I'm making you this free offer that will actually be of real help to you in publishing books. Now, obviously, if you go and download these, you're going to give me your email address. So that's kind of the transaction that we make. And in a sense, you're raising your hand saying, Joel, that's something I'm really interested in. And I'm responding by giving you this free content. And then because you're on my email list, I'm going to have the opportunity to make other offers to you, completing the cycle of platform, branding, and monetization. I hope this has been helpful to you. and giving you some insight into one way to think about what it is that we're actually doing here after we've written the book. And I encourage you, if you want to know more, to come over to my blog at thebookdesigner.com. We've got fresh content 3 times a week, and you're going to get a real education of publishing. So thanks to everyone who took time out of their day to attend this unit of Bookselling University. And thanks to Brian for inviting me. And I will see you next time.